Let's have a discussion about how to process things when your partner just gets up and leaves. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling men and women who've experienced abuse as well as those who have been perpetrators of abuse and other violent crimes. A commenter writes, a partner of years left me randomly. I woke up to a text saying that we're breaking up. I'm so blindsided and hurt. We live together and I don't know how to cope with this loneliness every day. I feel so many horrible feelings. I miss him so much. Do you have any advice? Yeah, I do have some advice. So I don't know your circumstances, or what all went on in the relationship. So I'll be just giving some general advice and suggestions. Um, and I think, the first, I'm sorry that happened to you. First of all, I know that that's incredibly hurtful and painful. But the first thing I would recommend, and I've shared this with you all before, I think it's always a good idea to get, older women and men who might be mentors, who've seen it all, done it all, you know, all the things, right? Made all the mistakes, and can sort of advise you, or share some of their experiences and things like that. But most of the time, people who've been through it, they've seen this before and they know what it's all about, right? And I think that leads me to number two. I think number two, you want answers. You want answers. You want to understand why. You want to see if you can work it out. Um, when someone has left you like that, they do not want to communicate and they do not want to work it out. I think you just kind of need to go and have an understanding with that. I don't know if there were problems in the relationship before, if they communicated challenges before, or if there were red flags in that person before, and you might have overlooked it or tried to work through it. Either way, when people leave you like that, one, it's if you haven't talked about it, if you didn't know it was coming, it's an ultimate form of disrespect. It's like I'm gonna take control. I'm out. Bye. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. That type of thing. And truth be told, and just as a little aside, I've had this happen to me before. I was really young. I was like 20, 21, 22, and I had a boyfriend, and all the things, right? Come and stay in with me and all this other kind of stuff. And he had a tendency to stray, you know, before he did the final dip out, right? And it would be one of those things where it was just like he would flirt with other women, and all these other kind of things. And I come back, we work it out. We'd be mad, and then we work it out, and then he just sort of dipped out. He was like, you know, blocked all those things and dipped out, and was gone. Find out he bought a house with another woman, living this whole life and all this other kind of stuff. And I cried. Oh my gosh, boohooed. And knowing what I know now, now I'm 46, so that was many years ago. But now I know, like, he called me like 2 weeks later too. That and he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I moved in with another woman." That's how I found out. He just like randomly called me at work. So now I'm crying at work, looking like a fool. At the hospital, and my coworker had to come pick me up. She's like, "Girl, what is going on?" Uh, so, um, knowing what I know now, I'm glad he's gone. I'm on the other side of it. I'm older and much more mature about things now. So to me, if someone wants to leave, I let them. I can't. You can't keep somebody who doesn't want to stay. If knowing what I know now, I probably would have paid her to take him off my hands. That's kind of how I would have done it. I would have let him go at the first sign of disrespect. And so that's kind of a little aside, and not to make it about me, but just the lesson in that little story is it happens to women It happens to men. It happens to everybody all the time where partners just get up and go. They feel like they found someone better or they have a better circumstance. And sometimes they do it without communication. Sometimes they'll communicate way after the fact. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't, I wouldn't try to dwell too much on that. And I know that's easier said than done. And so if I were you, what I would do is I would be intentional about healing from it and moving on as soon as possible, right? And learning about like how you can handle things differently. So I would recommend therapy, getting in with a good therapist and processing it, get all your, boo-hoos out and all that kind of stuff. And and then go back and sort of look at all the red flags, or things that you missed or things that you were willing to kind of overlook, and deal with your wounds around abandonment, all that kind of good stuff, right? So just deal with it and try again. And so if I were you, do the processing with a therapist. Don't drown your friends. You could certainly talk to your friends here and there, but don't make it all about you every time you show up with your friends and sort of, every chance encounter you get, you're sort of talking about this and bringing it back to that. Try to, go out with your friends and do things that are healthy forms of distractions. Going to the movies, I don't know, pottery, exercise, I don't know, whatever it is you like to do, or maybe something that you wanted to try, to take on new hobbies. Fun fact, I taught myself how to knit after that particular breakup. So I'm a self-taught knitter. It was that particular breakup. And I took out a lot of frustrations in knitting. Instead of starting with something simple, I got the most complex thing that you could, complex pattern you could try. And it's just, it took me hours and hours. And I just took out my frustrations on that. And that was a healthy form of distraction. Know that you live your life. Chances are too, if he left and there, it wasn't something that you guys talked about and you didn't know, you were just blindsided, like you said, chances are likely that he may pop up 3 months, a year, all kinds of, timeline, 5 years, so people like that typically will pop back up at some point later and give you a silly little sob story. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was going through things, all this other kind of stuff. And just know that when he pops back up, it's going to be a bunch of BS, but you're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to do some planning and figure out how you want to address it, because he's going to want to come back. Chances are likely he's going to want to come back and get that sweet thing back, and get into that groove and do all that kind of stuff, after he's disrespected you. And so, my advice to you is you want to figure out a way that you want to handle it, but also, if you allow somebody to come back after disrespecting you like that, what message are you really sending them? Right. So you want to be careful about that. Choose you first would be my recommendation. And yeah, so just try to cope with your wounds the best way that you know how. Make sure you're eating, make sure you're drinking your water, make sure you're going to bed, all those things. So stay on top of self-care is why I'm telling you that, because sometimes we just get so like we just ruminate and perseverate on like that, just like he left, and don't make it about you, but let me just work on myself and see how I can be intentional about making sure that I am making the best decision for myself and relationships going forward, and not taking it personal, not saying, "Well, I'm this way, I'm that way. That's why he must have left." Don't get into that sort of circling the drain type of stuff, because it doesn't help you. It's going to make you feel worse, and it's not going to bring him back. But, I hope that helps. And that's not comprehensive, but that's just like a general tips to get you started. Hope that helps. Take care.